Hello, 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 greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace! Horace, what's happened? Hold on. Water. Where's the water? Where's the water? Where do we put this? Hold on a second. Horace, come on, Horace. There it is. There it is. Give me one second. Give me one second. Gotcha. All right. Give me one moment. I can fix this. I can fix this. And there you go. Oh, oh, oh. Hello there, scholars. Um, we're having a little bit of a heat issue here in the study. As you can probably tell, we've had a heat leak from the Desert of Pages room, so things are a little bit warm here. Are you all right there, Horace? What do you mean I had nothing to worry about? What do you mean it was fun? Your head was on fire. D- I don't even know what to say to this. I mean, do you regularly do this? Is that a normal thing for you? I, you know what? Just never mind. I have a stream to work on, Horace. You just sit there and be your average normal self. So yes, we've had a heat leak in the study. Things are a little bit warm here, as you can probably tell. I will do my best to carry on though, as you, my dear scholars, come first tonight, because of course you do. So, apart from the thing that happened, how are you all doing, my dear scholars? I hope you're all doing well, better than me. Julian 20 hot. I can sympathize with that. Oh my goodness. Private Maverick, I'm good, good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear that. Oh, I'm gonna have to catch my breath. Horace, you will be. Horace, if it wasn't for the fact that I am immortal, you would be the death of me. Okay. Firefly, okay there. Good. Good. I'm glad. Okay is good. Okay is good. So, tonight, or today, or tomorrow, or whenever it is, we are going to be reading more of L. Frank Baum's Sky Island. Woo! We are actually halfway through the book now. Kind of surprised. Um, I think it's been a very good read. Very interesting. Oh, before I begin, I should uh I should do some thank yous for some new follows. Um, Ritsuka, thank you for the follow. Don Don Patapon, thank you so much for the follow. Index Page, thank you for the follow. And Lunares Dawn, thank you for the follow. It's wonderful to have brand new scholars here to join us in our in our daily readings. Though they're not really daily, they're twice a week at least. So bi-weekly? Is that the proper term? I think it's bi-weekly. It's something like that. I'm not. No, bi-weekly would be twice. Would be 2 weeks, wouldn't it? I really don't know the term for this sort of thing. I mean, I don't always stream twice. Oh, hello there, Sophia. Welcome. You just missed all the excitement with dear Horace being set on fire. You know, they saw. I've always said that Horace can be a bit of a hothead, but this is somewhat ridiculous. And that was a terrible joke. I am sorry. Oh, hello there, Crusader Corrupted. Thank you for the raid and welcome, dear raiders, to the stream. We are about to read Sky Island, which, yes, thank you for the raid. Which, as I was saying, we're halfway through the book. So we are going to be, continuing with that read. Oh, thank you for the subscription, Yulian. Thank you. Means a lot. Ah, that's wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. So where were we in this book? So last time we started reading, thanks. The Captain Bill, Trot, and Button Bright, who have accidentally landed on Sky Island via Button Bright's magic umbrella, managed to finally escape the hands of the wicked Boolaroo, and have ended up in the Pink Country, where they've discovered that things aren't much better, and they have been somewhat arrested as prisoners. Who knew? So, it looks like there hasn't been much improvement on their lot, but I think we should begin, don't you? Shall we, my dear scholars, continue our journey through the adventures of Sky Island and see what the Pink Country comes to introduce to us? Union 20, yes, please. Ooh, eager. Let me get a drink of water. I made sure the water was extra cold so I could deal with this ungodly heat. Alright then. Let me part the curtains. And we will begin our reading of Sky Island by L. Frank Baum. Excuse me. Excuse me. Need to clear my throat a little bit. Chapter 15. The Sunrise Tribe and the Sunset Tribe. Although Trot and her comrades were still prisoners, they were far more comfortable than they had been in the Blue Country. Coralie took them to her own home, where she lived in great luxury, being one of the prominent women of the Pinkies. In this country, the women seemed fully as important as the men, and instead of being coddled and petted, they performed their share of the work, both in public and private affairs, and were expected to fight in the wars exactly as the men did. Our friends learned considerable about the Pinkies during that afternoon and evening, for their hostess proved kind and agreeable, and frankly answered all their questions. Although this half of Skyland was no larger than the Blue Country, being no more than 2 miles square, it had several hundred inhabitants. These were divided into two tribes, which were called the Sunrise Tribe and the Sunset Tribe. The Sunrise Tribe lived in the eastern half of the Pink Country, and the Sunset Tribe in the west half, and there was great rivalry between them, and sometimes wars. It was all a question of social importance. The Sunrise Tribe claimed that every day the sun greeted them first of all, which proved that they were the most important. But, on the other hand, the Sunset Tribe claimed that the sun always deserted the other tribe and came to them, which was evidence that they were the most attractive people. Sounds like such a silly excuse for a war, huh? On Sky Island, at least on the pink side, the sun arose in wonderful splendor, but also it set in a blaze of glory. And so there were arguments on both sides, and for want of something better to argue about, the Pinkies took this queer subject as a cause of dispute. Both tribes acknowledged Tourmaline, their queen, and obeyed the laws of the country, and just at this time there was peace in the land, and all the inhabitants of the east and west were friendly. But they had been known, Coralie said, to fight one another fiercely with the sharp sticks, at which times a good many were sure to get hurt. "What do you call this? Why do you call this an island?" asked Button Bright. "There isn't any water around it, is there?"
"No, but there is sky all around it,"
answered Coralie.
"and if one should step off the edge, he would go tumbling into the great sky and never be heard of again."
"Is there a fence around the edge?" asked Trot.
"Only a few places are fenced.
Was the reply.
Usually there are rows of thick bushes set close to the edge to prevent people from falling off. Once there was a king of the Pinkies who was cruel and overbearing, and imagined he was superior to the people he ruled. So one day his subjects carried him to the edge of the island and threw him over the bushes."
"Goodness me!" said Trot. "He might have hit someone on the earth." Yeah, guess he skipped it though," added Cap'n Bill, "for I never heard a Pinky till I came here."
"And I have never heard of the earth,"
retorted Coralie.
"Of course, there must be such a place, because you came from there, but the earth is never visible in our sky."
"No," said Button Bright, "'cause it's under your island. But it's there all right, and it's a pretty good place to live. I wish I could get back to it." "So do I, Button Bright," exclaimed Trot.
"Let's fly!"
cried the parrot, turning his head so that one bright little eye looked directly into the girl's eye.
Say,
Ah, excuse me.
say, goodbye, and let's fly through the sky, free and high, far and high.
"If only we had my umbrella, we'd fly in a minute," sighed Button Bright. "But the Boolooroo stole it."
"Naughty, naughty, Boolaroo, what a wicked thing to do!"
wailed the parrot, and they all agreed with him. Coralie belonged to the Sunset Tribe, as she lived west of the Queen's palace, which was the center of the Pink Country. A servant came to the room where they were conversing, to state that the sun was about to set, and at once Coralie arose and took the strangers to an upper balcony, where all the household had assembled. The neighboring houses also had their balconies and roofs filled with people, for it seemed all the Sunset Tribe came out every night to witness the setting of the sun. It was really a magnificent sight, and Trot scarcely breathed as the great golden balls sank low in the sky and colored all the clouds with gorgeous tints of orange, red, and yellow. Never on the earth was there visible such splendor, and as the little girl watched the ever-changing scene, she decided the Sunset Tribe was amply justified in claiming that the West was the favored country of the sun.
"You see," said Cap'n Bill, "the sky is all around us, and we're high up, so the sun really loses itself in the clouds, and leaves a trail of beauty behind him."
"He does that," agreed Trot. "This is almost worth coming for, Cap'n."
"But not quite,"
said Button Bright sadly. "I'd get along without the sunset, if only we could go home." They went in to dinner, after this, and sat at Coralie's own table, with her husband and children, and found the meal very good. After a pleasant evening, during which no reference was made to their being prisoners, they were shown to prettily furnished rooms, all in pink, and slept soundly in the soft beds provided for them. Trot wakened early the next morning and went out onto the balcony to see the sunrise. The little girl was well repaid, for the splendor of the rising sun was almost equal to that of the setting sun. Surely this was a wonderful country, and much more delightful than the blue side of the island, where the sun was hidden by the great fog bank, and only the moon was visible. When she went in, she found that both Button Bright and Cap'n Bill were up and dressed, so they decided to take a walk before breakfast. No one restrained them or interfered with them in any way. Excuse me. In any way. "They know we can't get away," observed the sailor, "so they don't need to watch us."
We could go into the fog bank again,
suggested Trot.
"We could, mates, but we won't," answered Cap'n Bill. "If there's no way for us to get clean off an Sky Island, I'd rather stay with the Pinkies than with the Blues."
I kind of agree with Cap'n Bill here. I mean, the Blues were pretty terrible people to them.
I wonder what they'll do with us,
said Button Bright.
The Queen seems like a nice girl, and I don't think she'll hurt us, whatever happens.
They walked freely along the circular street, seeing such sights as the Pink City afforded, then returned to Corali's house for breakfast. Coralie herself was not there, as she had been summoned to the Queen's palace, but her husband looked after the guests, and when breakfast was finished he said to them,
"I am to take you to Tourmaline, who has promised to decide your fate this morning. I am curious to know what she will do with you, for in all our history we have never before had strangers intrude upon us."
"We're curious too," said Trot, "but we'll soon find out."
As they walked down the street, they observed that the sky was now covered with dark clouds, which entirely hid the sun.
"Does it ever rain here?" inquired Button Bright.
"Certainly,"
answered Coralie's husband.
"that is the one drawback of our country. It rains quite often, and although it makes the flowers and the grass grow, I think rain is very disagreeable. I am always glad to see the rainbow, which is a sign that the sun will shine again."
"Looks like the rain now," remarked Cap'n Bill.
"It does,"
said the man, glancing at the sky.
"We must hurry, or we may get wet."
"Haven't you got any umbrellas?" asked Button Bright.
"No, we don't know what umbrellas are,"
replied the Pinky Man. "Oh, hello there, Dr. Zadium. Welcome. They're just walking around the Pink Country right now." It did not rain at once, and they reached Tourmaline's wretched hut in safety. There they found quite a number of Pinkies assembled, and a spirited discussion was taking place when they arrived. Let me get another drink of water, for it is very difficult to speak of such things. I can't recall if on the Oz maps they include Sky Island on there. I mean, I know you wouldn't see it on the map, but I wonder if it is at least mentioned. Because King Anko is seen on the maps of the world of Oz, so I'm not sure if Sky Island is included or not. Be interesting to double check. For those of you who have copies of the world of Oz, why don't you, as a request, why don't you take a look and see if Sky Island is mentioned anywhere on there? Also, this will not be the last time we hear of a Sky Island in the Oz related books. There are some islands that appear much later on in some of the Oz stories that are set in the sky. Sky countries, I think. Come in, please, said Tourmaline, opening the door for them, and when they had entered, she placed a pink wood bench for them to sit upon, and went back to her throne, which was a common rocking chair. At her right were seated 6 men and women of the Sunrise tribe, and on her left 6 men and women of the Sunset tribe, among the latter being Coralie. The contrast between the plain, simple dress of the queen and the gorgeous apparel of her counselors was quite remarkable. Yet her beauty far surpassed that of any of her people, and her demeanor was so modest and unassuming that it was difficult for the prisoners to believe that her word could decree life or death, and that all the others were subservient to her. Tourmaline's eyes were so deep a shade of pink that they were almost hazel, and her hair was darker than that of the others, being a golden red in color. These points, taken with her light pink skin and slender form, rendered her distinctive among the Pinkies, whatever gown she might wear. When the strangers were seated, she turned to them and said, I have searched through the great book of laws and found nothing about foreign people entering our land. There is a law that if any of the Blueskins break through the fog bank, they shall be driven back with sharp sticks. But you are not Blueskins, so this law does not apply to you. Therefore, in order to decide your fate, I have summoned a council of 12 of my people, who will vote as to whether you shall be permitted to remain here or not. They wanted to see you before they cast their final vote, that they may examine you carefully and discover if you are worthy to become inhabitants of the Pink Country. Wow, quite judgmental there. Just move over. Just adjusting my seating a little bit. There we are.
The rose is red, the violet's blue, but Trot is sweeter than the two,
declared the parrot in a loud voice. It was a little verse Cap'n Bill had taught the bird that very morning, while Trot was seeing the sun rise. The Pinkies were startled, and seemed a little frightened at hearing a bird speak so clearly. Trot laughed and patted the bird's head in return for the compliment.
Is the monster man whose legs are part wood a dangerous creature?
Asked one of the Sunrise tribe.
Not to my friends, replied Cap'n Bill, much amused. I suppose I could fight your whole crowd o' Pinkies if I had to, and make you run for your lives. But being as you're friendly to us, you ain't in any danger.
Kintron, a bit late trying to fix things. Why does it smell like Alexandria in here? Don't remind me about Alexandria. Oh, I remember that day. I think I was there. No, I was there the day before. I borrowed a few texts. Never returned them. Eh, Probably for the best, anyway. Not even sure what happened to them. But that is a very sour memory in my mind. Um, but hopefully, are you feeling any better, Horace? Oh yeah, I forgot. You had fun with that, didn't you? Never mind. Welcome, Kintron. You came just in time for the Council of the Pinkies to decide Trot, Captain Bill, and Button Bright's fates as to what they're going to do with them. Excuse me. The sailor thought. Oh, the sailor thought this speech was diplomatic and might head off any troubles. But the Pinkies seemed uneasy, and several of them picked up their slender pointed sticks and held them in their hands. They were not cowardly, but it was evident they mistrusted the big man, who on Earth was not considered big at all, but rather undersized. What we'd like, said Trot, is to stay here, cozy and peaceable, till we can find a way to get home to the earth again. Your country is much nicer than the blue country, and we like you pretty well from what we've seen of you. So, if you'll let us stay, we won't be any more trouble to you than we can help." They all gazed upon the little girl curiously, and one of them said,
How strangely light her color is! And it is pink too, which is in her favor. But her eyes are of that dreadful blue tint which prevails in the other half of Sky Island, while her hair is a queer color, all unknown to us. She is not like our people, and will not harmonize with the universal color here." "That's true,"
said another.
"the three strangers are all inharmonious. If allowed to remain here, they would ruin the color scheme of the country, where all is now pink." "Yes, they have,"
replied a nervous little Sunrise Man.
"they have wronged us by coming here." "They could not help doing that,"
argued Coralie.
"and it is their misfortune that they are here on Sky Island at all. Perhaps, if we keep them with us for a while, they may find a way to return safely to their own country."
Excuse me.
We'll fly, yeah, we'll fly through the sky by and by. Ki-yi!
Yelled the parrot with with startling suddenness.
Is that true?
Asked the Pinky seriously. "Why, we would if we could," answered Trot. "We flew to this island anyhow."
"Perhaps,"
said another.
"if we push them off the edge, they could fly down again. Who knows?"
I have to keep adjusting my voice between these two.
"We know," answered Cap'n Bill hastily. "We'd tumble, but we wouldn't fly."
"They take a fall, and that is all,"
observed the parrot, fluttering its wings. There was silence for a moment, while all the Pinkies seemed to think deeply. Then the Queen asked the strangers to step outside while they consulted together. Our friends obeyed, and leaving the room, they entered the courtyard and examined the rows of pink marble statues for nearly an hour before they were summoned to return to the little room in Tourmaline's palace. "We are now ready to vote as to your fate," said the pretty Queen to them. "We have decided there are but two things for us to do. Either permit you to remain here as honored guests, or take you to an edge of the island and throw you over the bushes into the sky." They were silent at hearing this dreadful alternative, but the parrot screamed shrilly,
"Oh, what a dump! Oh, what a jump! Won't we all thump when we land with a bump?"
"If we do," said Cap'n Bill thoughtfully, "we'll none of us know it."
Well, I don't know. What do you, dear scholars, think? Are the Pinkies any better than the Blues? I mean, yeah, the Blues were pretty nasty to them, but the Pinkies, they're so obsessed with everything being the same. Julian 20, no, they are just about as bad. Yeah, I agree. Private Maverick, hard to say at the moment. Yeah, the Blues seem to be outright unpleasant, while the Pinkies just they're kind and nice and smiling, but they are really, it kind of hides their judgmental side, which is kind of almost worse. Firefly, I think it depends if they know pushing them off would very well kill them. I don't know. It made it sound like they might think that they could fly, but it's hard. You need 20 bad in a subtle way, which makes it even worse. Yeah, Firefly, if yes, they are, but just more sneaky about it. Yeah, it's hard to tell. They do seem kind of, well, not snotty. They're just kind of unpleasant at the same time. And them appearing so jolly just kind of makes it a little bit worse. Chapter 16, Rosalie, the Witch. Trot and Button-Bright had now become worried and anxious, for they knew if they were tossed over the edge of the island, they would be killed. Cap'n Bill frowned and set his jaws tight together. The old sailor had made up his mind to make a good fight for his boy and girl, as well as his own life, if he was obliged to do so. Firefly. If yes, then Firefly. I mean, people don't die in Oz. Maybe this is similar. I don't know. This is a fairy country. So the rules might be similar, but as far as we know, it might not be. Hard to tell. The 12 counselors then voted, and when the vote was counted, Tourmaline announced that 6 had voted to allow the strangers to remain, and 6 to toss them over the bushes. We seem evenly divided on this matter, remarked the Queen, with a puzzled look at her council. Trot thought the pretty Queen was their friend, so she said, "Of course you have the deciding vote, then you being the ruler." "Oh, no," replied Tourmaline. "Since I have asked these good people to advise me, it would be impolite to side against some of them and with the others. That would imply that the judgment of some of my counselors is wrong, and the judgment of others right. I must ask someone else to cast the deciding vote." "Who will it be, then?" inquired Trot. "Can't I do it? Or Cap'n Bill? Or Button-Bright?" Tourmaline smiled and shook her head, while all the counselors murmured their protests.
Let Trot do it, or you'll rue it,
advised the parrot, and then he barked like a dog and made them all jump. "Let me think a moment," said the Queen, resting her chin on her hand.
A pink can't think as quick as a wink,
The parrot declared. But Tourmaline's thoughts required time, and all her counselors remained silent and watched her anxiously. At last she raised her head and said, "I shall call upon Rosalie, the witch. She is wise and honest, and will decide the matter justly." The Pinkies seemed to approve this choice, so Tourmaline rose and took a small pink paper parcel from a drawer. In it was a pink powder, which she scattered upon the seat of a big armchair. Then she lighted this powder, which at first flashed vivid pink, and then filled all the space around the chair with a thick pink cloud of smoke. Presently the smoke cleared away, when they all saw seated within the chair Rosalie the witch. This famous woman was much like the other Pinkies in appearance, except that she was somewhat taller and not quite so fat as most of the people. Her skin and hair and eyes were all of a rosy pink color, and her gown was of spiderweb gauze that nicely matched her complexion. She did not seem very old, for her features were smiling and attractive and pleasant to view. She held in her hand a slender staff tipped with a luscious pink jewel. All the Pinkies present bowed very respectively to Rosalie, who returned the salutation with a dignified nod. Then Tourmaline began to explain the presence of the three strangers, and the difficulty of deciding what to do with them. "I have summoned you here that you may cast the deciding vote," added the Queen. "What shall we do, Rosalie? Allow them to remain here as honored guests, or toss them over the bushes into the sky?" Rosalie, during Tourmaline's speech, had been attentively examining the faces of the three Earth people. Now she said,
Before I decide, I must see who these strangers are. I will follow their adventures in a vision to discover if they have told you the truth. And in order that you may all share my knowledge, you may see the vision as I see it.
She then bowed her head and closed her eyes.
Rock-a-bye, baby, on a treetop. Don't wake her up, or the vision will stop,
muttered the parrot, but no one paid any attention to the noisy bird. Gradually, a pink mist formed in the air above the witch, and in this mist the vision began to appear. Excuse me. First, there was Button Bright in the attic of his house, finding the magic umbrella. You know what? Wait a second. Is this the book equivalent of a clip show? Is this chapter essentially the equivalent of a clip show episode for the novel? That's an interesting thought, actually. The clip show chapter in a book. Huh. Well, at least you find scholars who have missed some of the earlier chapters will now get to learn what actually happened previously. First, there was Button Bright in the attic of his house, finding the magic umbrella. Then his first flight was shown, and afterward his trip across the United States, until he landed on the bluff where the Trot sat. In rapid succession, the scenes shifted and disclosed the trial flights, with Trot and Cap'n Bill as passengers. Then the trip to Sky Island and the meeting with the Boolooroo. No sound was heard, but it was easy from the gestures of the actors for the Pinkies to follow all the adventures of the strangers in the Blue Country. Button Bright was greatly astonished to see in this vision how the Boolooroo had tested the magic umbrella, and in a fit of rage cast it into a corner underneath the cabinet, with the seats and lunch basket still attached to the handle by means of the rope. Oh yeah, I forgot. He actually passed by where the umbrella was because he was convinced it was still in the vault. Oh, now he finally figures out where it is. The boy now knew why he could not find the umbrella in the treasure chamber, and he was provoked to think he had several times been quite close to it, without knowing it was there. The last scene ended with the trip through the fog bank, and the assistance rendered them by the friendly frog. After the three tumbled upon the grass of the Pink Country, the vision faded away, and Rosalie lifted her head with a smile of triumph at the success of her witchcraft.
Did you see clearly?
She asked.
We did, O wonderful witch,
They declared. Then, said Rosalie, there can be no doubt in your minds that these strangers have told you the truth.
None at all,
They admitted.
What arguments are advanced by the 6 counselors who voted to allow them to remain here as guests?
inquired the witch.
That they have done us no harm,
Answered Coralie, speaking for her side.
therefore we should, in honor and justice, do them no harm.
Rosalie nodded.
What argument have the others advanced?
She asked. Iseo sits quietly in the back of the lecture hall. Ah, welcome, Iseo, welcome. We are just getting to the point where the Pinkies are judging whether they should welcome Trot, Cap'n Bill, and Button Bright as guests or throw them off the edge of Sky Island.
They interfere with our color scheme and do not harmonize with our people.
A man of the Sunrise tribe answered. Again, Rosalie nodded, and Trot thought her eyes twinkled a little.
I think I now fully comprehend the matter,
said she.
and so I will cast my vote. I favor taking the Earth people to the edge of the island and casting them into the sky.
I was not expecting that. I thought for sure she was going to ask them to stay as guests. Oh my goodness, that's horrible. For a moment, there was a perfect silence in the room. All present realized that this was a decree of death to the strangers. So there's your answer from earlier. They know very well this is going to kill the three of them, and yet they're still willing to do it. The Pinkies really aren't much better than the Blues. Trot was greatly surprised at the decision, and for a moment she thought her heart had stopped beating, for a wave of fear swept over her. Button Bright flushed red as a Pinky, and then grew very pale. He crept closer to Trot and took her hand in his own, pressing it to give the little girl courage. As for Cap'n Bill, he was watching the smiling face of the witch in a puzzled but not hopeless way, for he thought she did not seem wholly in earnest in what she had said. "The case is decided," announced Tourmaline in a clear, cold voice. "The 3 strangers shall be taken at once to the edge of the island and thrown over the bushes into the sky."
It's raining hard outside,
announced Coralie, who sat near the door.
Why not wait until the shower is over?
Oh, hello there, FT Wastes. You're not too late. They've just decided, the Pinkies have just decided that they're going to throw our heroes over the side of Sky Island to their death. This is a children's story. T-Waste, oh well then. Oh, Elfrake Bomb. You certainly can do Nightmare Fuel. "I have said at once," replied the little queen with dignity, "and so it must be at once. We are accustomed to rain, so it need not delay us, and when a disagreeable duty is to be performed, the sooner it is accomplished, the better." "May I ask, ma'am," said Cap'n Bill, addressing the witch, "why you have decided to murder of us in this cold-blooded way?"
I did not decide to murder you,
answered Rosalie. "To throw us off the island will be murder," declared the sailor.
Then they cannot throw you off,
the witch replied. "The queen says they will."
I know,
said Rosalie.
but I'm quite positive her people can't do it.
This statement astonished all the Pinkies, who looked at the witch inquiringly. "Why not?" asked Tourmaline.
It is evident to me,
said the witch, speaking slowly and distinctly,
that these earth people are protected in some way by fairies. They may not be aware of this themselves, nor did I see any fairies in my vision. But if you will think upon it carefully, you will realize that the magic umbrella has no power in itself, but is enchanted by fairy powers, so that it is made to fly and to carry passengers through the air by fairies.
"So that's how the magic umbrella works. Interesting."
This being the case, I do not think you will be allowed to injure these favored people in any way, but I am curious to see in what manner the fairies will defend them, and therefore I voted to have them thrown off the island. I bear these strangers no ill will, nor do I believe that they are in any danger. But since you, Tourmaline, have determined to attempt this terrible thing at once, I shall go with you and see what will happen."
Some of the Pinkies looked pleased, and some troubled at this speech, but they all prepared to escort the prisoners to the nearest edge of the island. The rain was pouring down in torrents, and umbrellas were unknown, but all of them, both men and women, slipped gossamer raincoats over their clothing, which kept the rain from wetting them. Then they caught up their sharp sticks, and surrounding the doomed captives, commanded them to march to meet their fates. Little drink. Kintron, I think the fairies are protecting them. Let's see how well. hmm The protection of the fairies actually comes up in one of the later Oz books when it comes to Trot. She seems to be blessed by the fairies in some manner. She talks about fairies blessing her after she was born, so that's an interesting little thing there. Excuse me. Uh, for all of those who attended any of the Oz readings, either by Kintron, remind me, did you read Road to Oz? I forget. Because I believe you were reading some Oz books, but I can't recall if you. Ah, that's your next one. Ooh. So this next chapter reintroduces a character from Road to Oz. So you're gonna get a little preview, Kintron, of this character. Ooh, Kintron, I'm still recording Ozma at this one. Oh, exciting! Ozma is a good book. And for those who attended Sophia Ignacci's reading of Road to Oz will recognize this next character. Oz books are wonderful. I love them. Chapter 17. The Arrival of Polychrome. Julian 20. They are fantastic. Yes, they are fantastic. Captain Bill had determined to fight desperately for their lives, but he was a shrewd old sailor man, and he found much that was reasonable in the witch's assertion that fairies would protect them. He had often wondered how the magic umbrella could fly and obey spoken commands, but now he plainly saw that the thing must be directed by some invisible power, and that power was quite likely to save them from the cruel death that had been decreed. To be sure, The magic umbrella was now in the blue country, and the fairies that directed its flight might be with the umbrella instead of with them. Yet the old sailor had already experienced some strange adventures in Trot's company, and knew she had managed to escape every danger that had threatened. So he decided not to fight until the last moment, and meekly hobbled along the street as he was commanded to do. Trot was also encouraged by the witch's suggestion, for she believed in fairies and trusted them. But Button Bright could find no comfort in their situation, and his face was very sad as he marched along by Trot's side. If they had followed the corkscrew windings of the street, it would have been a long journey to the outer edge of the Pink Country. But Tourmaline took a shortcut, leading them through private gardens and even through houses, so that they followed almost a beeline to their destination. It rained all the way, and the walking was very disagreeable. But our friends were comforting, were yeah, but our friends were confronting an important crisis in their strange adventures, and with possible death at their journey's end, they were in no hurry to arrive there. Once free of the city, they traversed the open country, and here they often stepped into sticky pink mud up to their ankles. Cap'n Bill's wooden leg would often go down deep and stick fast in this mud, and at such times he would be helpless, until two of the Pinkies, who were a strong people, pulled him out again. The parrot was getting its feathers sadly draggled in the rain, and the poor bird soon presented a wet and woebegone appearance.
"Soak us again! Drown us with rain!"
it muttered in a resigned tone, and then it would turn to Trot and moan,
"The roses are red, the violets blue, the Pinkies are a beastly crew! Woohoo!"
The country was not so trim and neatly kept near the edge, for it was evident the people did not care to go too near to the dangerous place. There was a row of thick bushes which concealed the gulf below, and as they approached these bushes, the rain abruptly ceased, and the clouds began to break and drift away in the sky. "Two of you seize the girl and throw her over," said Tourmaline in a calm, matter-of-fact way, "and two others must throw the boy over. It may take four, perhaps, to lift the huge and ancient man."
"More'n that," said Cap'n Bill, grimly. "I'm pretty sure it'll take all of you, young lady, and the chances are you won't do it then."
They had halted a short distance from the bushes, and now there suddenly appeared, through the rift in the clouds, an immense rainbow. It was perfectly formed, and glistened with a dozen or more superb tintings that were so vivid and brilliant, and blended into one another so exquisitely, that everyone paused to gaze enraptured upon the sight. Kintron, huge and ancient man. I resemble that remark. We'll accept wolf instead of man anyway. Ah, well, you sound like a marvelous fellow nonetheless. Let us say that. Steadily, yet with wonderful swiftness, the end of the great bow descended until it rested upon the pink field, almost at the feet of the little party of observers. Then they saw dancing gaily upon the arch a score of beautiful maidens, dressed in fleecy robes of rainbow tints, which fluttered around them like clouds. Ah, another little drink of water. Excuse me. Excuse me again. sometimes one has to clear one's throat when they are reading. Even I, an omniversal interdimensional being, must do that once in a while. The daughters of the rainbow, whispered Tourmaline in an awed voice, and the witch beside her nodded and said,
Fairies of the sky. What did I tell you, Tourmaline?
Just then, one of the maidens tripped lightly down the span of the arch until near the very end, leaning over to observe the group below. She was exquisitely fair, dainty as a lily, and graceful as a bough swaying in the breeze.
Why, it's Polychrome!
Exclaimed Button Bright in a voice of mingled wonder and delight.
Hello, Polly! Don't you remember me?
Of course I remember Button Bright,
replied the maiden in a sweet tinkling voice.
The last time I saw you was in the land of Oz.
Oh!
cried Trot, turning to stare at the boy with big, wide open eyes.
Were you ever in the land of Oz?
Yes,
he answered, still looking at the Rainbow's daughter, and then he said appealingly,
these people want to kill us, Polly. Can't you help us?
Polly wants a cracker! Polly wants a cracker!
screeched the parrot. I had a feeling they were waiting that entire book just to make that joke. Polychrome straightened up and glanced at her sisters.
Tell father to call for me in an hour or two, said she. There is work for me to do here, for one of my old friends is in trouble.
With this, she sprang lightly from the rainbow and stood beside Button Bright and Trot, and scarcely had she left the splendid arch when it lifted and rose into the sky. The other end had been hidden in the clouds, and now the rainbow began to fade gradually, like mist, and the sun broke through the clouds and shot its cheering rays over the pink country, until presently the rainbow had vanished altogether, and the only reminder of it was the lovely Polychrome standing among the wondering band of Pinkies.
Tell me, she said gently to the boy, why are you here? And why do these people of the sky wish to destroy you?
In a few hurried words, Button Bright related their adventure with the blue magic umbrella, and how the Boolooroo had stolen it, and they had been obliged to escape into the Pink Country. Polychrome listened, and then turned to the Queen.
Why have you decreed death to these innocent strangers? She asked. They do not harmonize with our color scheme, replied Tourmaline. That is utter nonsense, declared Polychrome impatiently. You're so dreadfully pink here that your color, which in itself is beautiful, has become tame and insipid. What you really need is some sharp contrast to enhance the charm of your country, and to keep these three people with you would be a benefit rather than an injury to you. At this, the Pinkies looked downcast and ashamed, while only Rosalie the witch laughed and seemed to enjoy the rebuke. But, protested Tourmaline, the great book of laws says our country shall harbor none but the Pinkies. Does it indeed? Asked the Rainbow's daughter. Come, let us return at once to your city and examine your book of laws. I am quite sure I can find in them absolute protection for these poor wanderers.
They dared not disobey Polychrome's request, so at once they all turned and walked back to the city. As it was still muddy underfoot, the Rainbow's daughter took a cloak from one of the women, partially rolled it, and threw it upon the ground. Then she stepped upon it and began walking forward. The cloak unrolled as she advanced, affording a constant carpet for her feet and for those of the others who followed her. So, being protected from the mud and wet, they speedily gained the city, and in a short time were all gathered in the low room of Tourmaline's palace, where the great book of laws lay upon a table. Polychrome began turning over the leaves, while the others all watched her anxiously and in silence. "Here," she said presently, "is a law that reads as follows. Everyone in the Pink Country is entitled to the protection of the ruler and to a house and a good living, except only the Blueskins. If any of the natives of the Blue Country should ever break through the fog bank, they must be driven back with sharp sticks. Have you read this law, Tourmaline?" "Yes, yes," said the queen. "But how does this apply to those strangers, to these strangers?" "Why, by being in the Pink Country, as they surely are, and not being Blueskins, they are by this law entitled to protection, to a home and good living. The law does not say Pinkies. It says any who are in the Pink Country." Ha! Loophole. I never noticed that earlier in the reading. I'll have to reread that previous chapter a little bit and see if they purposely leave that out when Tourmaline's reading it out loud.
True,
Agreed Coralie, greatly pleased, and all the other Pinkies nodded their heads and repeated,
true, 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 true.
trying to get the pronunciation right there. It's hard to do it in the Pinky voice.
The roses are red, the violets blue, the law's the thing because it's true.
Cried the parrot. "I am indeed relieved to have you interpret the law in this way," declared Tourmaline. "I knew it was cruel to throw these poor people over the edge, but that seemed to us the only thing to be done." "It was cruel and unjust," answered Polychrome, as sternly as her sweet voice could speak. "But here," she added, for she had still continued to turn the leaves of the great book, "is another law which you have also overlooked." Oh boy. "It says, the person, whether man or woman, boy or girl, living in the Pink Country, who has the lightest skin, shall be the ruler, king or queen, as long as he or she lives, unless someone of a lighter skin is found. And this ruler's commands all the people must obey. Do you know this law?" I'm not going to comment on the wording of that law. Only if it was read in certain ways, it would be very, very, very wrong. I know what the book is trying to say, but reading it another way sounds absolutely terrible. I will admit. And I apologize, my dear scholars, if you find it troubling. Firefly, how colorists. Yes, indeed. How colorists. Not sure I like these pinkies that much, even if it saves their lives. "Oh, yes," replied Tourmaline. "That is why I am the queen. You will notice my complexion is of a lighter pink than that of any other of my people."
Yes, remarked Polychrome, looking at her critically. When you were made queen, without doubt you had the lightest colored skin in all the pink country. But now you are no longer queen of the Pinkies, Tourmaline. Those assembled were so startled by this statement that they gazed at the Rainbow's daughter in astonishment for a time. Then Tourmaline asked, "Why not, your Majesty? Why not, your Highness?" "Because here is one lighter in color than yourself," pointing to Trot. "This girl is by law of the Great Book the rightful queen of the Pinkies, and as loyal citizens you are all obliged to obey her commands. Give me that circlet from your brow, Tourmaline." Without hesitation, Tourmaline removed the rose-colored circlet with its glittering jewel and handed it to Polychrome, who turned and placed it upon Trot's brow. Then she called in a loud, imperative voice, "Greet your new queen, Pinkies." One by one they all advanced, knelt before Trot, and pressed their hands to their lips. Lo- yeah. "Long live Queen Mary!" cried out Cap'n Bill, dancing around on his wooden leg in great delight. "Viva la! Viva la! Ah! Trot!" "Thank you, Polly," said Button Bright gratefully. "This will fix us all right, I'm sure." "Why, I have done nothing," returned Polychrome, smiling upon him. "It is the law of the country. Isn't it surprising how little most people know of their laws? Are you all contented, Pinkies?" she asked, turning to the people.
We are!
They cried. Then several of the men ran out to spread the news throughout the city and country, so that a vast crowd soon began to gather in the court of the statues. Well, Trot got a bit of a rank up, I'd say. I think I have enough energy in me to read one more chapter for this fine stream. Private Maverick, a big rank up. Yulian 20, yays! Yes, indeed. Chapter are we on? Chapter 18. Mary, Queen of the Pink Country. Yulian 20, is the desert cooling down? We're feeling a little bit cooler. I've sealed the door shut, so I'm hoping the the Desert of Pages room will the heat from it will soon dissipate. And I opened the snow room a slight bit just to let some cool air in. So hopefully that'll help. Polychrome now dismissed all but Button Bright, Cap'n Bill, Rosalie the Witch, and the now Queen of the Pinkies. Tourmaline hastened away to her father's house to put on a beautiful gown all covered with flounces and ribbons, for she was glad to be relieved of the duties of queen, and was eager to be gaily dressed and one of the people again. "I suppose," said Trot, "I'll have to put on one of Tourmaline's common pink dresses." "Yes," replied Polychrome, "you must follow the customs of the country, absurd though they may be. In the little sleeping chamber adjoining this room you will find plenty of gowns poor enough for the queen to wear. Shall I assist you to put one on?" "No," answered Trot. I guess I can manage it alone. When she withdrew to the little chamber, the Rainbow's daughter began conversing with the witch, whom she urged to stay with the new queen and protect her as long as she ruled the Pink Country. Rosalie, who longed to please the powerful Polychrome, whose very powers as daughter of the Rainbow were far superior to her own witchcraft, promised faithfully to devote herself to Queen Mary as long as she might need her services. By the time Trot was dressed in pink and had returned to the room, there was an excited and clamorous crowd assembled in the court, and Polychrome took the little girl's hand and led her out to greet her new subjects. The Pinkies were much impressed by the fact that the Rainbow's daughter was their new queen's friend, and that Rosalie the Witch stood on Trot's left hand and treated her with humble deference. So they shouted their approval very enthusiastically and pressed forward one by one to kneel before their new ruler and kiss her hand. The parrot was now on Cap'n Bill's shoulder, for Trot thought a queen ought not to carry a bird around. But the parrot did not mind the change, and was as much excited as anyone in the crowd.
Oh, what bliss to kiss a miss!
He shouted, as Trot held out her hand to be kissed by her subjects, and then he would scream,
We're the sky and flying high, we're going to live instead of die. It's time to laugh instead of cry. Oh my, ki! Ain't this a pie? Woohoo!
Kintron never say that having friends in power never gets anyone anywhere. That is true. That is true. It's a good thing Button Bright knew Polychrome. Cap'n Bill let the bird jabber as he pleased, for the occasion was a joyful one, and it was no wonder that the parrot was excited. And while the throng shouted greetings to the Queen, suddenly the great rainbow appeared in the sky and dropped its end right on the court of the statues. Polychrome stooped to kiss Trot and Button Bright, gave Cap'n Bill a charming smile, and Rosalie the Witch a friendly nod of farewell. Then she sprang lightly upon the arch of the rainbow, and was greeted by the bevy of dancing, laughing maidens, who were her sisters. "I shall keep watch over you, Button Bright," she called to the boy. "Don't despair, whatever happens, for behind the clouds is always the rainbow." I actually kind of like that saying. It's kind of a very pleasant, sweet saying. "Thank you, Polly," he answered, and Trot also thanked the lovely Polychrome, and so did Cap'n Bill. The parrot made quite a long speech, flying high above the arch where Polychrome stood, and then back to Cap'n Bill's shoulder. Said he, oh my goodness, the pages are stuck.
We Pollies know our business, and we're all right. We'll take good care of Cap'n Bill and Trot and Button Bright. You watch 'em from the rainbow, and I'll watch day and night. And we'll call a sky policeman if trouble comes in sight. Woohoo!
Suddenly, the bough lifted and carried the dancing maidens into the sky. The colors faded, the arch slowly dissolved, and the heavens were clear. Trot turned to the Pinkies. "Let's have a holiday today," she said. "Have a good time and enjoy yourselves. I don't just know how I'm going to rule this country yet, but I'll think it over and let you know." Then she went into the palace hut with Cap'n Bill and Button Bright and Rosalie the Witch, and the people went away to enjoy themselves and talk over the surprising events of the day. "Dear me," said Trot, throwing herself into a chair. Wasn't that a sudden change of fortune, though? That Rainbow's daughter is a pretty good fairy. I'm glad you knew her, Button Bright.
I yeah. Let me get Rosalie's voice again.
Oh, I was sure something would happen to save you,
Remarked Rosalie.
and that was why I voted to have you thrown off the edge. I wanted to discover who would come to your assistance, and I found out. Now I have made a friend of Polychrome, and that will render me more powerful as a witch, for I can call upon her for assistance whenever I need her.
Wow. So she didn't do it out of she doesn't care that Trot is okay. She just really wants Polychrome's friendship. Huh. Well, not sure if I judge Rosalie such a nice person after all. Where was I?
But see here, said Cap'n Bill, you can't afford to spend your time a ruling this tucked up country, Trot.
Why not? Asked Trot, who was pleased with her new and important position.
It'd get pretty tiresome, mate, after you'd had a few quarrels with the Pinkies, for they're expecting their queen to be as poor as poverty and never have any fun in life.
Firefly wondered if that was the case. Fire Maverick, a la church lady. Well, isn't that convenient? Yes, apparently it is very convenient.
You wouldn't like it for long, I'm sure, added Button Bright seriously. Trot seemed thoughtful. No, I don't know's I would, she admitted. But as long as we stay here, it seems a pretty good thing to be queen. I guess I'm a little proud of it. I wish Mother could see me ruling the Pinkies, and Papa Griffith too. Wouldn't they open their eyes?
They would, mate, but they can't see you, said Cap'n Bill. So the question is, what's to be done?
We ought to get home, observed the boy. Our folks will worry about us, and Earth's the best place to live after all. If we could only get a hold of my magic umbrella, we'd be all right.
The roses are red, the violet's blue, but this umbrella's stolen by the Boolooroo,
Screamed the parrot.
That's it, said Cap'n Bill. The Booloroo's got the umbrella, and that settles the question.
Tell me,
Said Rosalie.
if you had your magic umbrella, could you fly home again in safety?
Of course we could,
Replied Button Bright.
And would you prefer to go home, to remaining here?
we would indeed.
Then why do you not get the umbrella?
How?
Asked Trot eagerly. The witch paused a moment. Then she said,
You must go into the Blue Country and force the Boolooroo to give up your property.
Through the fog bank?
asked Cap'n Bill doubtfully.
And let the Boolooroo capture us again? Demanded Button Bright with a shiver. And have to wait on the Snubnoses instead of being a queen? Said Trot.
You must remember that conditions have changed, and you are now a powerful ruler.
Replied Rosalie.
The Pinkies are really a great nation, and they are pledged to obey your commands. Why not assemble an army, march through the fog bank, fight, and conquer the Boolooroo, and recapture the magic umbrella?
Hooray!
Shouted Cap'n Bill, pounding his wooden leg on the floor.
That's the proper talk. Let's do it, Queen Trot.
It doesn't seem like a bad idea, added Button Bright. Do you think the Pinkies could fight the Blueskins? Asked Trot.
Why not? Replied the sailor man. They have sharp sticks and know how to use them, whereas the Blueskins have only them winding up cords with weights on the ends.
The Blueskins are the biggest people, said the boy.
But they're cowards, I'm sure,
said the girl.
but they're cowards, I'm sure, declared the boy. Anyhow, the sailor remarked, that's our only hope of ever getting home again. I'd like to try it, Trot.
If you decide on this adventure, said Rosalie, I believe I can be of much assistance to you.
That'll help, asserted Cap'n Bill.
And we've one good friend among the Blueskins, said Button Bright. I'm sure Jip Giselle will side with us, and I've got the royal record book, which proves that the Boolooroo has already reigned his lawful 300 years. Does the book say that?
Excuse me.
Does the book say that? Inquired Trot with interest. Yes, I've been reading it. Then Sis'll be the new Boolooroo, said the girl, and perhaps we won't have to fight after all.
We'd better go prepared, though, advised Cap'n Bill, for that awful old Boolooroo won't give up without a struggle. When shall we start?
Trot hesitated, so they all looked to Rosalie for advice.
Just as soon as we can get the army together and ready,
decided the witch.
That will not take long, perhaps 2 or 3 days.
Good, cried Cap'n Bill, and the parrots screamed, Here's a lovely how-to-do. We're gonna fight the Boolooroo. We'll get the 6 snub-noses too, and make 'em all feel mighty blue.
Either that or the other thing, said Trot. Anyhow, we're in for it. Well, looks like we have a war on our hands coming up. Kind of interesting thing. I mean, it is Trot and the others basically using the not Boolooroos, sorry, using the Pinkies for their own gain. I mean, the Pinkies are only going to war so that our heroes can get their hands on the umbrella. Not sure what exactly is in it for them. Private Maverick War is a many splendid thing. Oh, goodness me. So I think we'll stop there for now. Um, close the curtains here. And I will see you at the chat area. Hello there. We are back. Private Maverick, then what is it good for? That is true. That is true. Julian 20, great reading. Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. So, my dear scholars, oh my goodness, this story really is Kinshon. So if the Pinkies go to war, the Blues will be black and blue. I can't tell if that's a pun or not, so I'm not going to be upset this time. I can't tell. Julian 20, or purple. True, true. So this book is moving at a really good pace. The plot is pretty fast. Wow. So we already have the whole issue with the Pinkies solved. Trot is now queen, and they're going to go to war against the Blues. Kintron, no, if it'd only be a pun if the Blues lost. Then had the Blues. Kintron! Stop! No! No more puns. Firefly purple. I'm gonna have to make a pun counter. I'm gonna have to figure out how to make a pun counter and do a count for every single pun I find in a story. Somehow. I don't know how. Kintron, sorry that one tickled me pink.
Yillian 20, Purple Haze. Is that a song? I feel like that's a song. But anyhow, so next week, as far as my schedule is concerned, FT Waste, there's got to be a widget you can find for that. I'll have to look. I'll have to look so I can add that to the streams. Next week we are going to be doing more Tome on Tuesday. Really enjoying that game. We'll be reading more Sky Island on Thursday, as far as I know, unless something changes. Maverick, if there was a tomato throwing emote, I'd use it. But before then, Sunday, I will be taking part in a very special collab. I will be collaborating with several other VTubers where we'll be raising money and discussing autism, which we'll be talking about our what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness, what is that word, Horace? Our experience with autism. Um, it will be for charity. I believe the charity is the Autism. What is it? Autism Advocacy Support Council, I believe it's called. Oh my goodness, my brain. Um, and it will be. Oh, thank you for the follow. Sucking Tom Cruise's toes. Interesting name there. Interesting name. Thank you for the follow. Um, it is. We'll be playing golf with friends, and it will be done through Sophia Ignacci's stream channel at noon at noon Central Standard Time on Sunday. So that's noon Central Standard Time, and I believe that's 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So please look forward to it. I will post a reminder on my Twitter. Um, I'm hoping to see some of you fine scholars to support this wonderful, wonderful cause. But for now, before we go, let's see if there is anyone we can raid tonight. You know what? I see Polly Casterline has started streaming. She is playing a game, Left 4 Dead 2. Let's raid a fellow librarian. I think that'd be nice for tonight. So, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Farewell, and bye bye.